Hola chicos, today we're going to continue to talk about the subjunctive to make sure you fully understand this new concept. And it is a tricky concept. I'll explain you why in this presentation, but first I wanted to remind you that you can access to extra help and tutoring on Thursdays during my office hours. If you need help with this, I'll be happy to give you a live lesson right there to clarify your doubts and make sure you are understanding this concept, which is key for going to AP or Spanish 4. So here we go. So how to understand the subjunctive? Well, it is, guys, one of the most difficult things for people who are studying Spanish to understand. And why? I have three reasons that I'm going to give you. The first one is because it's a mood, and that does not exist in English, so you cannot make any direct connections between English and Spanish in relationship with the subjunctive, because English does not have a mood called the subjunctive, so there is no parallel that you can do. And let me show you these funny memes that I found online about the subjunctive, so you can have an idea of how hard it is for English speakers to kind of like grasp and understand this topic, this theme. But it's not impossible, of course, but it will take way more of your effort. So I thought these were pretty funny. You can take a couple of minutes to read them, but they truly represent the first reason. Okay, so the second reason, because it is not a tense like preterite or imperfect or present, it is a mood that can refer to past, present, and future. And you should know that by now, because I told you that el modo subjuntivo, it is a mood, and by that I mean it communicates unreal events and wishes and desires, emotions basically. And we are now in class studying the present conjugation of the subjunctive mood, but there is also a past conjugation of the subjunctive mood, and there is also a future one. And of course, I told you in class too that all of the tenses you have previously learned in previous courses are part of the indicative mood. And by that I mean real things, factual information, right? That's what the indicative mood communicates. And my third reason is because the subjunctive, since it is a mood, it's a way of thinking, of understanding, and emotionally expressing what we want to say. And the subjunctive is unreal, and at the same time it's very charged in terms of emotions. Right now we're particularly studying wishes and desires, but the subjunctive can also express doubt and uncertainty, and you're going to learn that in Spanish 4 or AP. But you need to understand that it is a way of thinking, understanding, and emotionally expressing what you want to say. Okay, so it's unreal, and it is charged in emotion in terms of the message we're trying to communicate, right? And this is the reason why, as a student, you need to make the effort to mentally comprehend this and just embrace it, you know? Remember, reason number one said that there is no parallel, direct connection to English in terms of structure. So you really need to take time and make sure you're following the rules to form the subjunctive to actually use it. You have to stop and think, because this is not going to come to you as easily as other content has in the past. And what is key here is the structure. And after watching your videos on Flipgrid that you made the other day, I realized that, of course, some of you skip the structure, which is fine because I don't expect you to master the structure the first week that we have talked about this. But I need you to remember it, because in order for the subjunctive to take place, the sentences, whatever you say, has to have this structure. Two verbs, the word que, which is the relative pronoun, and two different subjects. And this is the part in which you particularly have issues here. Some of you forget that it has to be two different subjects. So let's go back and start with the two verbs. The second verb, of course, must be in the subjunctive form. So the second verb that you're using after the que has to be conjugated in the subjunctive form. And that verb, it is subordinated to the first verb, which indicates the emotion. In this case, we're studying wishes and desires. So just stay with me because I'll show you an example in a couple of minutes. Then we have the que, and you know that. And que is the relative pronoun, and after que, you use the verb, the second verb, in the subjunctive form. Oops. And then we have the two different subjects. And the sentence in the subjunctive form has to have two different subjects. You cannot have the same subject in a sentence. And let me give you some examples right now. We are studying in class the subjunctive in terms of wishes, desires, deseos. So I'm going to give you examples based on this. So look at this side of the presentation. Of course that when we express wishes and desires related to the same subject, here I'm talking about the same subject, we do the following. We use an infinitive as the secondary verb. So when we express a wish and desire using the same subject as we do here, we have quiero, we know that that is yo, so you have yo quiero. And then we have comer, but we know that this is the same subject because this is what you want to do. Like you're saying, I want to eat pizza, basically. So you say yo quiero, first verb you conjugated. Second verb, the secondary verb, we use the infinitive form to express this wish, right? Yes, and you know this because you know that rule, two verbs in a row. The first verb you conjugate, the second one you don't. Because you have the same subjects. That's why you do that. Look at this second sentence. Nosotros queremos jugar videojuegos. Here you're literally trying to say something like, we want to play video games. So queremos, you know that is nosotros form. And then you don't need to conjugate the verb again because it's the same subject to express this wish. So you just use the infinitive form in the secondary verb. Again, two verbs in a row, you usually conjugate the first one, the second one you use the infinitive. You have been working with this rule for a while. And if now you can look at this rule with the lenses of expressing wishes and desires, you can realize that you do this when you have the same subject here. That's why you conjugate the first one, you don't conjugate the second one, because you're talking about the same subject in the sentence. But the subjunctive, guys, is different, because in the subjunctive, if we go back to the structure, we have two different subjects. So we are not using the same subject in the sentence. So when the wish or desire makes reference to another person, so we're changing the subject, we use the subjunctive. So look at this sentence. I tried to kind of come up with the same idea of the one that you have here so you can contrast and compare. Quiero comes from the yo conjugation. So yo quiero que, we have the relative pronoun there. Juan, so here I have a different subject. I started with yo. Now I am talking about Juan. So yo quiero que Juan coma, second verb conjugated in the subjunctive form, pizza. And here I'm saying something in English like the following, but remember, there is no direct connection in English here. in terms of the sentence structure. But it would be something like, I want that Juan eats pizza kind of thing. Here you have it. Yo quiero que Juan coma pizza. Same with the second one. We have nosotros queremos que tú juegues videojuegos. We want that you play video games or something like that. So if you notice, the subjunctive talks about wishes, right? And whenever we're talking about a wish that we have of somebody has in relation to another person, we use a subjunctive. But when we're talking about a wish that involves the same subject, we don't use the subjunctive. Okay, so here we have some examples. These are the verbs that are highly used to express wishes. So, insistir en, querer, pedir, preferir, and necesitar. I give you some other ones too. These are the ones that are highly used. You have to get familiar with all of them. I don't want you to be using querer all the time necessarily, so you need to start switching them up a little bit. But look at these examples. So the first example, we have the same subject here. And we're using these verbs to express wishes. Number one, yo insisto en bajar de peso. Here I'm using the same subject, so I conjugate this verb, the first one. I don't conjugate the second one because I'm using the same subject. And this is not subjunctive. But now look at number two. Mi madre insiste en que yo baje de peso. We have two different subjects. I conjugate the verb, the first verb, the one that expresses the idea of a wish or desire, regular indicative mood. And then the second verb I conjugated in the subjunctive mood, in this case, present. So the second one represents the subjunctive form, guys. The first one is not subjunctive. So can you see the importance of following the structure? First subject, first verb, que, second subject, different than the first one, second verb, conjugated in the subjunctive form, in this case present. Same with the second example, set of examples. Yo necesito hacer más ejercicio. Same subjects, not subjunctive at all. Number two, mi entrenador necesita que yo haga más ejercicio. Mi entrenador, that means my coach. Different subjects. I have the que, relative pronoun. My first verb conjugated in indicative mood. Good, present. My second verb is conjugated in the subjunctive. And this, of course, is subjunctive.